What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are the usual suspects, Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
What's up?
What's up is we're going to talk about the Mount Rushmore. This time around, it's going to be the Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania. If you don't know what the Mount Rushmore is, it's pretty simple. We're going to go down a list of a bunch of different names. We're going to talk about people that deserve to be on this top 4 spot. And eventually we're going to have to come to some kind of a consensus of who the 4 people are that represent this the best. We've done 3 of these in the past, so I recommend going ahead and checking those out if you have not checked them out in the past. We did the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling in general. We did the Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling. And the last one that we did a couple months ago was the Mount Rushmore of WWE authority figures. Oddly enough, how many people would have thought that would have been the third one? This time around, this was a suggestion from Callum of focusing on WrestleMania. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be talking about competitors and anybody else that's necessarily been in the mix for WrestleMania that can essentially, I guess, like, be what WrestleMania is. Who has had the best performances, who has great records at WrestleMania, who main events a lot, means a lot to the creation of WrestleMania, anything that goes along the lines like that. So, first question I have for you guys, just to kind of spill the beans a little bit. I have 2 people that I think are 100% guaranteed. Do you have any, did you go into this going, all right, well, I have X amount of people that have to be on this list?
I have 2 absolute guarantees as well.
I also have 2 guarantees, but I don't know if they'll be the same as you guys' guarantees. Because I know who one of your guarantees will be, and I don't have them as my guarantee.
Well, I'm going to argue with you on that one, because Kevin Nash definitely deserves to be on there.
Oh, no, I was talking about Fandango.
I mean, he's one of the third ones, but
it's the greatest. I mean, it's the greatest upset in WrestleMania history.
Definitely up there, but no, Sid is my guarantee.
2 main events, don't rule him out.
Yeah, well, did you see? Callum agrees.
I think that's must be quite a weird record, is the fact that he appeared in 2 WrestleManias and he main evented both of them.
Yep.
That's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah. It's like he was the master and ruler of the universe or something.
Yeah. And he appeared in one more, and even that was in relation to a championship match. So Sid is clearly the biggest star in wrestling history. Obviously, he gets a spot on Mount Rushmore.
Well, one goes to Psycho Sid, one goes to Sid Justice.
One goes to Sid Vicious.
And one goes to the Millennium Man.
All right. Done.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it. Well, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The Undertaker.
Yeah, he's got to be on this list.
He absolutely has to be. I will take no alternative options to Undertaker. He has the undefeated streak. He has the most amount of matches, the most amount of wins. He's main evented WrestleMania multiple times. He has won the championship at WrestleMania multiple times. Undoubtedly one of the best performers. And even though you go back into like Jimmy Snuka and some of the older kind of matches, they weren't really like the best. But then again, that was the time frame where match quality wasn't really all that much. So 100% I say there's no argument to anything alternative to The Undertaker. He has to be on this list.
100% agree.
Oh, absolutely. Undertaker, 24-2 record, 26 appearances. He's the only person, to my knowledge, that wrestled in single-digit WrestleManias, the 10s, the 20s, and the 30s. So, pretty much, his career is underlined by WrestleMania, and WrestleMania is also underlined by him as well. And it's going to be weird this year when he's almost certainly not wrestling at WrestleMania.
He might not even be doing anything.
Oh, I imagine not.
So I thought it's kind of strange.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a changey thing, but it's probably a change that needs to be made at some point. So this year is as good as any.
Well, what
What's
were
your
the ones
favorite?
that he missed out on? He missed out on 10 and
10 and 16, 2000.
16. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
It's going to be a third one now. Probably. Practically
Well,
almost last year, too. But
Well, he missed out on 1 through 7 as well. But
yeah.
No, he was at 7. He missed out on 1 through 6.
That doesn't count, though.
Yeah, well, 7 was his first one. I keep forgetting because I try and go through those ones, and I try and forget about the Giant Gonzalez one. So he's on the list, right?
So we can all agree King Kong Bundy is Undertaker's best match at WrestleMania, right?
It's not his worst. I'll give him that at least.
Yeah, so
Well,
that one's in the bank.
signed, sealed, and delivered. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, everybody, sorry about my horrible sounding voice. Blame that on allergies. Springtime, you know.
You never apologise at other points.
Let's see here. You know what? Let's kind of do the opposite of what we normally do. Usually what I like to do is I like to throw out a bunch of names that aren't going to be in the mix and kind of work my way up. I think that this time around there's not a whole lot of people that we can really discuss, so it's worth just kind of tossing out the big names and going along with that. If you call yourself Mr. WrestleMania, you should, if not be a guarantee, you should definitely be in the discussion. Shawn Michaels is somebody who I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed on it. I think that, you know, The Undertaker, we already agreed, all three of us, he's 100% in. That's one of the spots. I would see an argument to not have Shawn Michaels on there, depending on who else we would go with, but he does call himself Mr. WrestleMania. He does have multiple main events. He does have championship wins. He does have perhaps the best performance record for WrestleMania as well. So he's pretty much on that list for me.
He is one of my maybes, although he is my favorite wrestler. I can definitely see an argument to Shawn Michaels not being on this list. And the Mr. WrestleMania thing, it's just weird to me that Shawn Michaels' peak is known as the 90s. And really, he kind of like The Undertaker, he had his best performances in the latter half of his career completely when it comes to WrestleMania. Because if you look at his first singles run, it's Tito Santana, Tatanka, you get the really good one with Razor, and then a lot of people skip over the one with Kevin Nash, go straight to Brett, and then he's not on it for 13, and 14 is, quite frankly, just a miracle that he even got in the ring. So when I think of Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, I definitely think of the latter half of his career. But I do think he's got to be in the discussion.
I think if you have that nickname, you kind of are forcing yourself into discussion whether you merit it or not. And there's certainly not a case that Michaels doesn't deserve to be mentioned in it. He has 17 matches on the show, but his record, if you want to go for a kayfabe sense, his record is terrible. He's only got 6 wins and 11 losses. So he does put on like great performances typically, but the winning record isn't there. I mean, you could argue that he has 2 of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history against The Undertaker. I'd add the match with Kurt Angle to that list as well.
Absolutely.
The match with Jericho is highly underrated.
The triple threat with Benoit and Hunter.
Yeah, that's one of the best main events of all time. The match against Cena is also underrated. I think it's overshadowed by their match they had on Raw a couple of weeks later. And
you've got the Iron Man match, which I know some people aren't the biggest fan of, but it was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, the ladder match was revolutionary for the time.
Yep.
He got a good match out of Kevin Nash.
He got a good match out of Vince McMahon.
Damn right he did.
And I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I missed. But
did we mention Ric Flair? Ric Flair.
Oh, well, Ric Flair as well. I mean, he's through WWE's history books, he's had wrestled Ric Flair's last match. So he did a huge amount at WrestleMania, but I wouldn't say he's a dead cert, but he's as close as you can get without actually being there.
To me, he's on the back burner. He's a possibility of slotting him in if we can't agree on a spot necessarily, but not as much of a lock as The Undertaker. I will say, though, my other lock is Hulk Hogan. He has main evented, I think, the most amount of WrestleManias, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, he's got 9 of them.
He's the figurehead that sold the very first WrestleMania, the second WrestleMania, obviously the third, which is like still the peak when it comes to a lot of things with WrestleMania. But he still main evented in other capacities too. Like, you know, he wasn't the one who ended up at the end of the night holding the championship at WrestleMania 4, yet he was the one coming out there to celebrate. You know, Hogan must pose, that kind of a thing. WrestleMania 5, WrestleMania 6, WrestleMania 7. Like, this dude even managed to be the person at the end of the night holding the championship at WrestleMania 9. But he's done, you know, he took out all those years and he comes back and what's he doing with The Rock? WrestleMania. You know, it's like Hulk Hogan. There is no WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan.
You want to talk about good matches with Vince McMahon? WrestleMania 19 is probably my favorite Vince McMahon match, and that's with Hulk Hogan. And sorry, Callum, he's my little lock. You can't do a WrestleMania Mount Rushmore without saying Hulk Hogan needs to be on this thing. He is WrestleMania in a lot of ways, and yes, they've had to pivot, but you can see that they don't even want to, because if you watched the 36 press conference, it started with Hogan, and then everybody after kind of gushed over Hogan. It was weird in a 2019 context, but that Hogan will always have that stigma to some people, and you gotta have him on this list.
Oh, I was surprised because I assumed that you guys' lock could have been Shawn Michaels because my lock was Hulk Hogan.
Oh, there you go.
like
I mean, I as much as he's a distasteful human being in behind the scenes and all that other stuff, you kind of have to just look past it when you're just trying to talk about the characters. Hogan was the big drawing, had the drawing power to launch WrestleMania into the stratosphere. I mean, to say there wouldn't be a WrestleMania about Hogan, I think goes a little too far, because if you really want to go down to brass tacks, there wouldn't be a WrestleMania. If the reason why WrestleMania is as big as it is right now is because of Mr. T, not because of Hulk Hogan, because they decided to get a real bona fide television celebrity to like feature in a match.
Well, then I'll go that route and say Cyndi Lauper as well.
Yeah, it was the celebrity aspect of it that really drew it, but the biggest like wrestling celebrity at the time was Hulk Hogan. So, and he proved to be like sustained drawing power during the like formative years of WrestleMania. The match with Andre the Giant, as awful as it is to watch in hindsight, is just like is the WrestleMania match.
Yes.
It's the match that people refer to all the time, that they'll always show clips of that slam. No matter what Hulk Hogan has said or done or anything about that stuff, they'll always go back to that slam as the biggest moment in WrestleMania history.
If not wrestling history.
Arguably that as well. I mean, it's pretty incredible, like what he was able to accomplish. I mean, the match against Randy Savage and the match against Ultimate Warrior is probably a better match than both of those two could have possibly ever put on together. And they managed to put the one great match they had on a WrestleMania main event. I mean, all the other ones, they have varying degrees of quality. That's the thing with Hulk Hogan, is that he falls down the quality mark, in the sense that the tag team match is just a tag team match. The match against Bundy is him against the big giant of the day. Andre the Giant match is terrible, but it's obviously got the huge moment with it. Then he has another match with Andre the Giant, even worse. And then the Savage one's good, the Warrior one's good, the Slaughter one's terrible. The Sid Justice one is even worse.
It's awful. The tag team is awful, and the way it ends is awful. But then he redeems himself.
And then he comes back with The Rock. Yeah, comes back 10 years later to have phenomenal match. I would say phenomenal matches. In terms of the quality, they're still not good, but they're exciting because of who's involved, and the crowd are just so into that Rock Hogan match. I mean, that is another moment just encased in time of just Hogan and The Rock staring down while the crowd go absolutely crazy. So yeah, I think Hogan's a lock for this list.
Well,
So that brought up a couple different things. I'm going to switch over to a name that I think is a guarantee not to be on there, but it's somebody that we should probably bring up, and that's Andre the Giant. Because in my mind, Andre the Giant is influential for the first, chunk of WrestleMania, and he has that moment at WrestleMania 3, but the moment is ultimately Hogan's moment. And then it's sort of, we do have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but it doesn't mean shit. It's just something that he's worth talking about, but I think it's a no for Andre for me.
I don't know. I think in terms of a wrestling capacity, you're looking at Hogan, and then it's Andre right underneath in terms of what got WrestleMania 1 to be a big deal. And you're talking about WrestleMania 2, he was one of the pillars. They built that Battle Royal, which closed one of the 3 shows around Andre. And then obviously what he did at WrestleMania 3. And then he takes a little dip at 4 and 5, but he ultimately ends his career at WrestleMania 6. So he's definitely entrenched in the WrestleMania legacy, but whether or not he'll be on this list or even the backup list, I don't know.
See, I can't even tell you some of his matches. Like, what does he do at WrestleMania 1?
Body Slam Challenge with Big John Studd.
Okay, the Battle Royal's number 2, then Hogan's number 3, Hogan is
number 4, Jake the Snake at 5, and then the tag team title match at 6.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the Jake the Snake one and the tag title match.
I don't think, due to the fact that Andre only appeared at 6 WrestleManias, he doesn't really have he has obviously a huge legacy attached to the formative years of WrestleMania, but his legacy doesn't extend beyond that. And I kind of have a bit of a melancholy when talking about Andre the Giant in relation to WrestleMania, because that's the deterioration of his career. You can watch going from one WrestleMania to another. He is in terrible shape.
Yeah.
And you can tell from WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania 6, this is a man who is dying. And that's really sad to say, but by WrestleMania 6 he can barely move in the ring. And so just say for if there's any wrestling historians listening, that he didn't end his career at WrestleMania 6. But,
I know he did stuff in Japan, but come on.
but yeah, that was his final WWE match, and it feels a bit sad to just talk about Andre in relation to WrestleMania, and he had that huge moment at WrestleMania 3, but it, like you say, Tony, is mainly Hogan's moment, and Hogan would take it as his moment. But it's other than that, his WrestleMania matches were okay, but nothing special, and he's just somebody who was there to support Hogan through the beginning years.
Right.
He
was the guy who, I mean, look, the first 2 years he didn't main event. The third year he did, 4th, 5th, 6th, he didn't. So he was the runner-up kind of thing.
He was the attraction, shall we say.
Yeah. He was the Undertaker before the Undertaker got into the mix.
In a lot of ways, yes.
Well, if we want to talk about runners-up in WrestleMania, should we talk about Randy Savage?
Yeah.
Definitely. He has the most wins per WrestleMania. He won 4 times at WrestleMania 4. He has won the championship twice. Great performances. Everybody goes nuts about that whole Ricky Steamboat match. I personally think it's overrated as shit, but people do go nuts over it, and I try to separate my opinion from some of these things in some capacity. But Randy Savage, to me, he's up there on this list. He needs to be in the consideration.
Another guy who, when you're talking about WrestleMania 2, which was Savage's first WrestleMania, when they divided it into 3 shows, one main event went to Hogan, one main event went to Andre, and the other one, I believe, went to Savage and George Steele, didn't it?
I think that was one of the ones. Well, it was definitely an Intercontinental Championship match on one of the ones. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the main events. I actually was. So it's WrestleMania 2, right? The one that split over.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Piper and Mr. T?
Mr. T, and yeah.
Oh, did they? Is that when they did the boxing thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but he was still a major player there, and he steals the show at 3. And you can't argue that facilitated the change of philosophy, and that probably opened the door for guys like that we're going to talk about later, like Brett and Shawn and people like that. And then 4, he absolutely kills it. Not only the matches, but wearing a different outfit every time he comes to the ring. He mastered the pageantry of WrestleMania. And WrestleMania 5, great match with Hogan. 6 is the one blemish to me because he's in that mixed tag with Dusty Rhodes and Sherry and Sapphire. 7, I'm not a big fan of the aftermath with all the hugging Elizabeth and all that, but the match with Warrior at WrestleMania 7 is on my top 10 WrestleMania matches of all time because that's how good it was. And then at WrestleMania 8, him and Flair do have one of the best WWE Championship matches at that time. And then, of course, he becomes a commentator and then wrestles Crush at WrestleMania 10, and that's sort of forgotten, but I think he's got to be at least in the discussion.
Yeah, Savage is a guy that, to me, needs to be in the range of Shawn Michaels right now. Maybe a little bit underneath Shawn Michaels in my mind, but if not, like nipping at the heels, kind of.
I place him below Michaels in my mind at the moment, just because even though WrestleMania 4 is such a huge moment for him, it's marred by the fact that I think WrestleMania 4 is a terrible show, and the tournament absolutely ruins it because every match is about 5 minutes. It's none of the matches.
Be this year.
Oh yeah, I know, but like we'll talk about that when it comes to it. But this match is. But his matches were probably the better ones out of them, but it doesn't really help with the fact that just none of them were particularly good. It's mainly when you talk about Savage at WrestleMania, for me, it's the Steamboat match, the Hogan match, and the Warrior match. Yeah. And those 3 matches alone are enough to put him into very high esteem in this conversation. But I don't know whether I'd put him ahead of Michaels at this point.
So those are backups that we got right now. How do you guys feel about... I'll toss out this name because why not? Vince McMahon.
I wanted to see. I was initially on the idea of I wanted to limit it to performers at WrestleMania, and I didn't mean that as just wrestlers, like obviously interviewers, commentators, whatever, stuff like that. And I tried to cast away the fact that Vince McMahon is the guy that created it, and he has to be on that Rushmore WrestleMania because he invented WrestleMania and all of that stuff. But even on a performance side of things, he could merit a place in this Mount Rushmore thing because he's only had 4 matches at WrestleMania, and one of them is one of the most abysmally booked and laid out matches in history between a 60-something-year-old man and a stroke victim. But the other matches, like the one with Shane, the one with Shawn, and the one with Hogan, are amazingly entertaining, and that's because Vince is just so much fun to watch get beaten up. And he's played a huge part in other WrestleManias as well. I mean, the WrestleMania 15, he was there trying to help The Rock defeat Austin. He was there at WrestleMania 16 taking a rock bottom from The Rock. At 17, he didn't only just face Shane, but he also had the handshake from hell with Stone Cold. So he's always been there and around. But if I'm going to stick to my idea of keeping it purely performer-wise, I'm going to rule him out.
I'm going to also just toss out his credentials as being the voice of some of these WrestleManias. Originally he had left it to Gorilla Monsoon, but when Gorilla phased out, he took on that role, and you hear it at the end of every one of our podcasts. That Iron Man, the boyhood dream has come true. That is an iconic call, so I almost want to say he can at least be in the discussion for not only that, but for his iconic commentary work. But I think there are many other performers that deserve it above him, so I'm going to pass.
That's where the distinction needs to come in. Do you go with the foundation kind of aspect? Do you go with overall just like performers and all that? So I would lean more towards the idea that Vince McMahon should only be in the conversation for a spot if we can't decide on a like 4 performer based type thing, which we already have 2 potential backups. So maybe tangential number 5, just out of like, you know how like the 4 Horsemen technically has 5 people, that kind of a thing. Like maybe if the Mount Rushmore has a little 5th person on the side, just dangling like a puppet master. I'm going to toss out some names that I don't think that we have too much that we can really necessarily go on, but I wrote them down for some reason. Kurt Angle? Nope.
I don't. I mean, I'm obviously biased because Kurt Angle's one of my favorites all time. But I would argue that when we talk about the people that have the most consistently good performances at WrestleMania, he outstripped Shawn Michaels. I think he, across his entire body of work at WrestleMania, has the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. And that's probably not far out there, but
even if that's true, I kind of go with legacy and moments for Shawn far outranking Kurt Angle.
Oh yeah, I say, and Kurt Angle does only have one main event under his belt, and you could argue that one wasn't really the real main event of that show because there were so many other big matches on WrestleMania 19. But I wouldn't. I obviously would rule him out under some of the people we've discussed, but I wouldn't be so flippant about it because he's like been such an incredible performer in WrestleMania, and even like WrestleMania 34 with Rousey and against Triple H, that was the best match on that show. Not that Kurt Angle played the most part in that, but you know.
No, I mean, out of a list of only 12 people that I had written down, he was one of the 12.
Yeah, that's good.
So, I would say no to Bret Hart, but I think that he's worth at least bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, again, Bret's another one of those guys who was so key in changing the philosophy of WWE. And for a long time, when they talked about your WrestleMania moment, there was always that iconic shot of WrestleMania 10 when Bret holds up the title after beating Yoko. Not only that, but of the first 13 Manias, Bret got a featured role in 12 of them. And the match with Michaels, but more importantly, the matches with Owen and Austin are also on my top WrestleMania matches of all time. So I think he's at least worth talking about, if not in the discussion.
Oh yeah, absolutely, completely worthy discussion. I think that the match against Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13, it may not be the greatest match. I mean, it's one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history, but I think it's also the most important match in WrestleMania history. Just by the base, obviously you can talk about the Hogan, Andre one as establishing WrestleMania, but in terms of establishing a complete change in the business and like, because at WrestleMania 13, WWE could have easily fallen by the wayside against WCW, and that turning point and the idea of running with Bret as a Canadian loving heel and Austin as the anti-hero that the crowd all got behind was the thing that really catapulted WWF to the stratosphere. So that's one of the most important matches in WrestleMania history, but I would rule Bret out. Still.
Yeah. He's on my C tier for this list, essentially. How do you guys feel about The Rock? He's a no to me, too, but again, obviously I'm not bringing him up for no discussion, but
he's a really close one for me, in the sense that like it's because it's mainly if he had not ever come back to wrestle for WWE after he left in WrestleMania 20 as his final one, then I would say no. But the fact that he came back and had those matches with Cena, and obviously the legendary match with Eric Rowan as well, but mainly the matches against Cena. Yeah, but the matches against Cena potentially tip him over the edge because this was a guy who his first few matches at WrestleMania he was just like the Intercontinental title level. So he was there and around. He was in featured matches, but nothing special. But then he's in World Championship match, World Championship match, World Championship match, match against Austin, match against Hogan, and then obviously the two big matches against John Cena as well. He's just a star that transcends wrestling, and so when he's appearing at WrestleMania, it kind of just transcends WrestleMania as well.
And he's the host.
Oh yeah, the host of 27 as well. Yeah,
and he did the segment at 30 with Austin and Hogan, and 31 with Ronda. So I mean, Rock is really tied into the history of WrestleMania. But I'm gonna agree with Callum and say if he didn't come back, it would probably be a hard no for me. But he's got to be in that discussion on Michael's level for me, as he might be a guy that has to go on this list.
Let's see here. I'm going to argue against this one, but I can still see bringing him up. Brock Lesnar.
So it's hard because every WrestleMania he's ever he's been in a main event capacity.
He's either closed the show or he's been just shy of closing the show for sure.
And I think if it wasn't for the fact that the legacy of WrestleMania and the performers in it are so stacked, he'd have to be on this list. But luckily, there's enough on the other side of that we can rule Brock Lesnar out.
Well, see, my reasoning for ruling Brock Lesnar out is the sheer amount of ill will surrounding him. Nobody especially somebody who's been in that high of a position so many times, has had so much negativity surrounding what they've done multiple times. Like, Lesnar against Kurt Angle, nothing wrong with that. Great. Lesnar against Triple H. Hey, you know what? Big match. You put it on the B level type of thing. It was like on par with the Undertaker and CM Punk match, whatever. Cool. Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns the first time around. Okay, you know, people were salty about that, but you had this big moment with Seth Rollins and whatever. But then you do the one with Goldberg. And a lot of people were pissed about that. You know, they screwed over Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho.
Oh, you mean the second one with Goldberg?
I was going to go back for that. I was going to say, you know, you do the one with Goldberg and they screwed him over like that, but it's nowhere near as bad as the one that they had done before that, which they're getting booed out of the building and everything. And then you get the WrestleMania from last year, and it's like, people go into it going like, for fuck's sake, can we just get something else? And then they go, God damn it. You know, like, there is so much negativity around Brock Lesnar that I can't see putting him above Savage or Michaels or The Rock or Vince McMahon or whatever.
I wouldn't go that. Yeah, I wouldn't put them ahead of that. But my reasoning for that would be strictly longevity, and that's basically the only reason. Because if, let's say, Lesnar had 5 more WrestleMania appearances, I probably would put him in that upper tier bracket. Because just think of the moments. His first ever match at WrestleMania, he main evented. There's not many, only a handful of people can say they've done the same thing. The match against Goldberg, obviously, the first one was dreadful and it got a horrible reaction, but it's still memorable for that reason. The match against Triple H, I think, is his least good WrestleMania outing, just because it fades in the memory. Because the feud was okay, but it doesn't really leave that lasting impression. I mean, he ended the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania, so he'll always be remembered for that side of things. And then he's always in the World Championship picture pretty much from that point on, except the match with Dean Ambrose, which we try not to talk about.
I actually always forget about that one too.
Yeah, I try and forget that one never happened, really, for both their sakes. But I think, yeah, if he'd had 5 more WrestleMania matches, I probably would be putting him up among there. But because he's only got 8 matches to this point, and he'll have 9 at the next one, which will also be a World Championship match, then maybe it depends how long he sticks around. I think eventually he could find his way onto that top list, but at this point in time, I'd say no.
All right, well, that's 2 no votes. Haha. No to Brock.
Well, you
Yeah.
don't get a chance to talk about this person a lot, but what about Edge?
Edge would get a no from me. I think that he is a very solid, capable, what's a good way to put it? Like, he's a reliable assistant manager type of guy. Like, he did have the big thing at WrestleMania 24. I attribute that a little bit more towards Undertaker than to Edge, though.
I don't know. That was one of Taker's better performances, and it does take 2, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that match. That match is fantastic.
I would also
think
say
Edge,
Go ahead.
I was going to say Edge is like an unsung hero that I had listed at WrestleMania. I mean, this guy put on so many great performances. The ladder matches are legendary. The match against Foley is probably Foley's greatest match at WrestleMania. I'd probably go as far as to say that. He was undefeated for quite a long time as well, and obviously he won his first Money in the Bank at WrestleMania as well, which was the thing that launched him into the main event status. The match against Undertaker. It's the ones towards the tail end of his career that are a bit like rub off a little bit less on his legacy. The match against Cena and Big Show is, I mean, the people involved made it worthy of a main event match, but the quality of the match itself just wasn't there. The match against Jericho was well below the standards of both those two at the time. And the match against Del Rio, and the match against Del Rio is it's Del Rio. So.
It's Del Rio.
But to that point, he retires after having a world championship match at WrestleMania. Like, that is the caliber of who he is. I didn't expect him to get on the list. I did want to say he is very much an unsung hero of not only WrestleMania, but WWE of his time.
How do you guys feel about celebrities? Because I kind of said to myself, Mr. T is the only one worthy of actually discussing. Because everybody is sort of just like kind of a one-trick pony. Like, you're not going to be like, all right, Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania is Floyd Mayweather or Maria Menounos or Jenny McCarthy or, you know, whatever. Like, lots of celebrities come in, and if there was a spot for insert celebrity, like just all celebrities combined, then I think that would be worthy of a spot, but that's not the same as saying, like, Cyndi Lauper or Muhammad Ali or Pete Rose, you know, deserves to be on there. I don't think any one celebrity deserves to be on that spot. Not even Mr. T.
No, but I think they are in a class of their own, and we could probably run through a quick discussion of like WrestleMania celebrities, but I don't think any of them need to be on this particular list.
Yeah, like you said, the idea of a celebrity in general is important for the history of WrestleMania, but like you said, the only one that probably merits real discussion is Mr. T, and the only one that I'd put slightly underneath that is Fred Durst.
I was gonna say Lemmy, just because he's Lemmy.
Well, you know what? Actually, fuck it. Let's just do that as a little extra side thing. Mount Rushmore of celebrities at WrestleMania. Here you go. Mr. T's one of them, right?
Mr. T, Cyndi Lauper, Donald Trump, and probably Lemmy for me.
What about Mike Tyson?
Oh, yeah. Damn. Yeah, take off Lemmy, put in Tyson.
Yeah, I'll go Mr. T, Tyson, Fred Durst, because Limp Bizkit is the WWE's favourite band in the whole world. And Floyd Mayweather. I think Floyd Mayweather.
See, I'd go Tyson, Lauper, Mr. T, and then I don't know about the fourth. Part of me kind of wants to say Lawrence Taylor, because he did main event. But...
He did, yeah, he main evented. That's fair. And we've well established that is your wheelhouse, that era.
Sadly. I don't know, maybe something to revisit another time, but I got 3 big names on my list still that we haven't talked about yet, and I think that at least one of them is a pretty good shot at going in there, if not all 3 of them worth a possibility. So fuck it, I'll just say all 3. I'll lay my cards out on the table. The 3 that I think are within the realm of bringing up here, the lowest ranked I would say would be Triple H. And then above him, far above him, would be Steve Austin. And then above him, I would put John Cena.
I think the Cena Austin discussion is where it's going to become a little like a bargaining thing, because I love Triple H. He's top 3 of all time for me. And I think he produced a lot of quality matches at WrestleMania, but when you look at the record, I think he's lost the most of anybody, hasn't he?
He's lost more matches than anybody, but he doesn't have the worst record.
I think Big Show might have the worst.
Actually, I need to just check my records there because it might actually be a Big Show. But for the spoiler alert, I actually just went through all the people that I had listed down and trying to actually get their winning percentage or whatever and stuff like that. But Big Show lost 12 times, Triple H has 13 losses.
Oh, there you go.
So, and Big Show's not going on this list.
No, Big Show isn't. Big Show's been in a shit ton of WrestleManias, but, that's no.
Do you know Big Show lost his first, I think, was it 6 WrestleManias? Or 7?
Damn.
6 or 7 WrestleManias. His first win at WrestleMania was WrestleMania 22 when him and Kane defeated Carlito and Chris Masters for the Tag Team Championship.
Well, he's got the iconic, it's WrestleMania, baby, woo!
It's amazing as well because like his first singles win at WrestleMania was the match against Cody Rhodes.
Which
and
is fair,
WrestleMania
that was the whole story,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the table match, right?
No, that came later.
That was the match he lost in a Canal title. Was the table match?
Oh, that's right.
One, it was just a regular match. But
yeah, because he stepped through it. It's just fucking.
It's
crazy.
just like, because I read that as like you probably say, oh, that's quite weird, but then I just look at that and think, oh yeah, it's Big Show, so it must be like that. Only he would be like the size that he is and have a record at WrestleMania like that. But in terms of like the 3 people you mentioned, I actually placed Triple H over both Cena and Austin, which sounds weird for me to say.
Yeah, it does.
Because I've always been very critical of Triple H the performer over Triple H the visionary for NXT. But if you go by number of appearances, Triple H far outstrips both of them. If you go by just like actual performances, I think Triple H outstrips both of them as well. I mean, maybe Austin is a closer parity on that side of things, but I think Cena's WrestleMania performances are hit or miss, really. I mean, you can have a really great one like the match against. I'm actually trying to think off the top of my head. Like, I'm a big fan of the match he has against Rusev. I'm obviously fan of the. Oh, yeah, actually, I'm going back and just like thinking of all matches I can think of with Cena. He has some really shitty matches at WrestleMania. Like the match against Big Show isn't that great. The match against JBL is awful. It's definitely not worthy of a WWE Championship match. The match against Triple H, he gets carried by Triple H. The match against Michaels, he gets carried by Michaels. The triple threat with Orton and Triple H is bad. 25, the triple threat match again, so it's not even that special. The match against Batista's good. The match against Miz isn't good.
The matches with Rock are pretty good.
The first match, the second match isn't that great.
At least when it comes to spectacle, though, I mean, this guy won the United States title, won the WWE title, retained the WWE title, retained the WWE title. Like, a countless amount of times, this guy's either walked in as champion or walked out as champion.
I can definitely equate that side of things in terms of like just being in a featured match at WrestleMania and be a big deal, but I don't know whether I'd be comfortable with him being on the Mount Rushmore just because his performance level is so bad at these shows. And it's weird because his quote unquote like nickname is Big Match John, but at WrestleMania he just doesn't seem to show up, or if he does, he's just his corny self. I mean, just look at his most recent ones. So the match against Undertaker is.
I hate it.
It's not even a match.
Yeah, and in hindsight, going into WrestleMania 35, it was completely pointless and terrible, and it wasted too much time. The match against Bray Wyatt, he kills Bray Wyatt's momentum immediately. The match against Rusev, he kills Rusev's momentum for a while as well. And then he's not at WrestleMania. He's not at WrestleMania 30. Well, WrestleMania 32, he doesn't actually perform in a match, but he still manages to kill the Wyatt family's momentum in the game with The Rock. And then 33 was the match with Miz and Maurice, which is
and
just.
And now we know that was pointless.
Yeah, and that was pointless as well. So I really struggle. I understand with spectacle, the amount of big matches, important matches he's been in, but I just don't think his performances merit any sort of don't merit enough of a place on this thing. I could make arguments for other people over Cena, including Austin and Triple H.
Before Callum laid it out like that, I was going to say he could be in the discussion because he's one of those guys, like he's the modern guy like Hogan, where you talk WrestleMania, you're talking, oh, John Cena, that's the thing that John Cena does, But yeah, apparently Callum's right. John Cena at WrestleMania isn't that great. So, yeah, for me.
I will say this for Cena, he has more wins than anybody at WrestleMania, so he does have that under his belt.
That needs to be taken into consideration. I don't think that I would put him in there. We only have 2 spots left, and we already have Michael Savage and The Rock, and potentially Vince McMahon, but highly doubtful when it comes to that. So it's like we got 4 people to fit in 2 spots already, and I don't think that I would put John Cena over Shawn Michaels, for instance, or whatever. But I would put Cena over Triple H. Now, Austin, I don't know. Austin's kind of a weird scenario because he wasn't really a part of a ton of WrestleManias, but when he was a, huge fucking deal. WrestleMania 13, he has one of the best matches of all time, and, we could talk about that till, our ears bleed. I don't know why I went with that one. That doesn't make any sense. Main events WrestleMania 14, main events WrestleMania 15. So it's like Austin's got that to his name, but I don't know. I would go Michaels, I would go potentially Savage, and I would potentially go The Rock over Austin too. It's kind of tough.
I think Austin's hard to rule out because still when people talk about WrestleMania, they talk about Austin Rock, and there isn't a WrestleMania season that goes by that I don't see that My Way video package down my timeline at least 20 times. Austin's a huge deal, and I think he should be in the discussion, even if when he gets stacked up against Shawn and Savage, he doesn't come out on top, but I think he should at least be in the discussion.
The Austin Rock one is quite an interesting thing because I think you have one. It seems like we talk about this when we talk about the greatest wrestlers of all time or the biggest deals of all time. You either have Austin or The Rock on this thing, I think, and it's hard to separate the 2 of them because 3 of their matches against each other, so they're kind of on equal footing because of that. Austin's has multiple main events under his belt. He has the match against Brett, which is one of the greatest WrestleMania matches, as we've discussed. He has the match against Savio Vega. Let's not forget about that. It's a big deal.
Yes.
But there's also the work that he did, and the match with Scott Hall as well, with the greatest stunner of all time. But we'll gloss over that as well. But he also has multiple appearances in a guest referee capacity as well. So the Goldberg Brock Lesnar one, best probably. Just him being involved in that meant that there was at least somebody to cheer. And then, obviously, the Battle of the Billionaires as well. So, and he was also involved in a Piper's Pit segment. He was involved in that big opening to WrestleMania 30 with The Rock and Hulk Hogan. So his appearances aren't just limited to matches themselves.
He beat up the New Day.
Oh, yeah, he did as well. I almost forgot about that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, his moments, it's the idea of the fact that he had a short span as well. He only had 7 matches at WrestleMania, so it was in a very confined space of time. But it's hard to determine whether that quantifies him over or under The Rock because of that. And I still think he should be in the discussion, but he'd probably be on the lower end for me at this point in time. But I might change my mind going down the line.
Well, what other names have we not mentioned that you guys think actually should be brought in?
I want to go in more detail about Triple H, because I know you've said that you're putting him under Cena, but I think Triple H is more of... I mean, honestly, and this probably is maybe a bit of a stretch, I'd put him over Michaels in my own personal list of this. Triple H has more matches than Michaels has at WrestleMania, It's like he has the second most of all time. He would have the longest like consecutive streak if he hadn't gotten injured leading into, I think it was
23.
23, yeah. So, and especially recently, like talk about some of these like older guys who just turn up for these big paydays and stuff like that. And Triple H does kind of do that sort of thing. But the performance level that he can still put on at his age and the miles on his body clock is pretty phenomenal, to be honest. And talk about like the match against Rollins, which is one of the. It's also the thing with Triple H is that he always has the longest match at WrestleMania as well, so he's probably got more time on a WrestleMania ring than anybody else. But you go back to like his first match. His first match was against the Ultimate Warrior in that most infamous squash, which I think essentially paved his mindset of I'm never doing that sort of thing again. So I'm never jobbing in a match ever again. So even if I lose, I'm still going to be the person everyone's talking about. But look, he main evented multiple WrestleManias. He was in championship matches at multiple WrestleManias. He's had matches against Lesnar. He's had matches against The Rock. He's had matches. The only big guy that he hasn't had, like, well, there's probably a few, but like the big guys he hasn't had big WrestleMania matches at WrestleMania that you'd expect him to have, like Michaels, Austin, Angle. I mean, it's probably not helped by the fact that he has 3 matches in that side against The Undertaker, but they're 3 awesome matches against The Undertaker. And he does have a match against Michaels, I forgot, with the triple threat, obviously, with Benoit. And the match against Batista launched Batista to the next level as well.
And that's the one where I gotta say, as much as anyone wants to say Triple H doesn't want to do jobs, Triple H laid down for Batista and let Batista fuck him up.
Oh,
he would make a star.
He'll do it for his friends. Unless you're Sheamus, obviously. You won't do it for Sheamus. But
that match wasn't the worst match either, though.
I would say the one huge red flag that I have with Triple H's one is the match against Randy Orton. Actually, there's 2. The match against Randy Orton from WrestleMania 25 and the match against Chris Jericho from WrestleMania 18.
Which is a shame.
Because they're both utterly overshadowed by the matches preceding them, which in Triple H's case, in the 18 cases, The Rock Hogan, and in 25's case is the Undertaker Michaels match. And neither of those, he shouldn't have main evented both those matches, but because he's Triple H, he main evented those matches, those cards.
No, because he had the title, he main evented.
Yeah, because the WWE Championship always main events, as we've seen.
At that point, yes. At that point, yes.
But yeah, I think just for the sake of his longevity and the level of performance that he puts in as well, because obviously people talk about Michaels and Kurt Angle putting in huge and consistent performances, but Triple H is no slouch as well in these situations. I would put him over a lot of people to the point where I would say he's very, very close, if not already in my top 4, like my personal top 4 for WrestleMania.
You know what? I'm always down for talking about how good Triple H is as a performer because he is one of my favorites of all time. We didn't talk about the Sting match. You know, it was a spectacle, but it was fun.
Shouldn't happen.
The Booker T match, which a lot of people don't like the finish of, but I thought that was actually, it holds up. It's just another great match on that WrestleMania to me. And obviously, 20 was the best match of all time. And he continuously provides these great matches. So, yeah, I think Triple H should be in the discussion.
So, if we're going to move on to like a few other names, which maybe just merit some, like at least just some kudos as opposed to actually being serious discussions. Like I created like a pretty extensive list, even though I knew that most of them weren't going to be involved because we've discussed all the ones that I think are really in discussion for the top 4. But just so that there's more people than just those few people for like the biggest deals in WrestleMania history. I had listed Roddy Piper, obviously.
Yeah, definitely something to talk about.
Just because obviously both in a wrestling and non-wrestling capacity, I think when I think of Roddy Piper in association with WrestleMania, and it's probably the wrong match too. Well, there's many bad things as well as good things, but the match against Goldust is just a huge spectacle, and I feel bad to say that the match against Bad News Brown is
well, yeah,
is one of the worst instance in wrestling. It's one of the biggest. I don't want to say black marks because that sounds even worse at this point in time, but it's like it's a real stain on his legacy and WrestleMania's legacy as well.
Well, thanks to
there's
that.
Mania 1, there's Mania 2, there's, I mean, like, Piper's got
WrestleMania 2
some
is
stuff.
his match against Mr. T is a shoot, brother.
Yeah.
He basically, him and Mr. T essentially ruined that match because they just actually want to kill each other. But he definitely deserves, like, as a formative player for WrestleMania. And obviously he wrestled at WrestleMania 25 as well, so has that longevity surrounding him as well. Other names I've got listed down: Ultimate Warrior.
Again, he's kind of like Andre, where he's tied in with the early days, and I don't think you can have a WrestleMania discussion without talking about him, because they thought enough of him to let him beat Hogan at WrestleMania, and only 2 people have that distinction, so he definitely means a lot.
I put Chris Jericho down, just mainly as a longevity thing, but I definitely don't. He's definitely on the lower end of the scale for this one.
Yeah, I actually can't think of, like, besides the Michaels match, I don't know if Chris Jericho had a stop everything you're doing and watch this match.
But he's also one of the few, one of the elite group that main evented as well, even though he shouldn't have done on that match. But
fuck, you know what? I mean, I don't want to put him on the list, but Roman Reigns.
He has a lot. He's, like, put it this way: we somehow doing this podcast 10 years' time, he probably will be on this list.
Yes.
Right. I mean, he beats The Undertaker in what seems to be the retirement match, even though he's had matches since then. Main evented multiple times. Won the championship multiple... well, no, he didn't. Never mind. He didn't win the championship multiple times. He lost it twice.
Every WrestleMania after the
once.
Shield.
He won the one time. He beat Triple H, but the other 2 times that he should have won it, essentially, he didn't, which is strange.
Every WrestleMania after the Shield, when it was just time for WrestleMania, they built it around Roman. Roman is headlined every WrestleMania as a singles competitor.
Yeah, the only reason that it's not happening this year again, that with him being built around that, is because he had to take the time off for leukemia. But if that wouldn't have happened, guaranteed he would have been going into that Universal title match. Next year, I'm assuming we're getting probably The Rock against Roman Reigns. So, somebody to keep your eyes on.
Yeah.
Other names, these were a couple of unsung heroes type. Well, there's a few. Most of the ones I have remaining are kind of unsung heroes, but Owen Hart, I think, should have a little bit of a mention, because it's a rare time we get to talk about Owen Hart, and in a positive light. And so he's got a really good record at WrestleMania, actually. 5 wins out of the 8 matches he had. Obviously, the match against Brett is the one that everyone would talk about, but he had a number of good tag team victories as well with either the British Bulldog or Yokozuna. So I think
Owen is one of those guys, and we talk about it a lot, where had the structure been what it is today, he would have been a world champion, and he was that good. It's just the business wasn't ready to put him on top yet.
I wanted to mention Jeff Hardy. Again, it's not somebody that I like to give too much spotlight to, but he's a guy that's just like put his body on the line to make like big WrestleMania moments. And also, he has a very terrible record at WrestleMania. Like the first match he won at WrestleMania was the match that him and Matt Hardy won the team titles in WrestleMania 33. So
and I would honestly say WrestleMania 25. Everybody talks about Shawn and Taker, but the Hardy brothers went to war at that event and had a really good match.
I never liked that match. It was essentially, well, as far as I could tell from like the research that I've done into that sort of things, that match was had its time cut. So essentially, they just rushed all their spots and did no selling. So that's fine. I put Shane McMahon down, just as like especially recently, like he's had more of his matches recently but he has a decent record, and he is usually involved in some big angle at recent WrestleManias. So,
this person's running out of time, but do you think that there's any chance that if we're still doing this in 10 years, AJ Styles makes the list?
Nope.
no. To be honest, his early matches have actually coloured against him. And I think even if he has great matches from here until whenever he does retire, I don't think it would be enough.
Fair enough. Well, since we are talking about people, I do want to legitimately say Sid was in 2 Manias, headlined both of them, one against Hogan, one against Taker, the 2 people that we have as locks for this list. Sid doesn't get a lot of positive praise, but you can't deny that this guy was a player.
He lost against Taker.
And lost against Hogan as well.
Well, he lost against both of them, but he was in the ring with both of them.
I thought you said one against on both of them. Yeah.
I think Sid gets a really bad rap. I actually really like Sid. He's not the greatest wrestler, but just as a character, he's a lot of fun.
I agree.
It definitely won't be now, but do you think maybe 10 years' time we'll be saying Charlotte Flair should be on this list?
Yes.
100%.
Because she only has 3 matches, and I'd already place her as the most. If you had to put a woman on this list, I'd put her over everyone else. The only one that would come close is Trish.
Yeah, she blows Trish out of the water in my mind.
Yeah. And
because unfortunately, like Trish, I tried to look at Trish and say, can we get her at least in the discussion? But it's a couple good triple threats and a match against Christy Hemme, and then there's really only the one match against Mickey that's worth any discussion. So Charlotte Flair, when it's all said and done, is probably going to be known as like Miss WrestleMania.
No, that's Santina Marella.
Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, forgot about putting Snooki on that celebrity list as well. That would be.
Yeah, not in a million years.
Influential. She's the 4th spot. You know.
What about Daniel Bryan?
I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be.
If this was a discussion of moments, I think his WrestleMania 30 moment would be on the Mount Rushmore. But himself as a performer, no.
He has a fantastic record at WrestleMania. He's essentially the only loss he has on the WrestleMania main card was the one that he lost in 18 seconds against Sheamus, and then it's wins all the way for Daniel Bryan at that point. But as you say, it's quite sporadic, and I don't think there'll be enough time for him to extend it too far. A few other just a couple of unsung heroes that I have is Jake Roberts. Appeared at quite a few WrestleManias, but didn't really do anything of too much note. But come on, that blindfold match. I mean, that's like peak
that's
WrestleMania.
A fun match. Yeah. That's a good time.
His man doesn't get any real too much acclaim. Tito Santana. He appeared at the first 9 WrestleManias he appeared in as well.
And he won the very first match at a WrestleMania, and yeah, he was a huge player. He even had a tag title match in WrestleMania 4. So
yeah, he was in the I think he was in the tournament at WrestleMania.
No,
4.
he was. I'm pretty sure it was him and Martel losing to Demolition.
Oh, it might have been that. Yeah, it may have been Strike Force, because I know they split up at Strike Force in one of the WrestleManias as well. So
yeah, they split up at 5.
Yeah. I also just like Santana's record, because Santana's got the first win at WrestleMania, and then it's 7 straight defeats and then a final win. So it's kind of funny.
WrestleMania 9 that was him and Papa Shango. That was a dark match, right?
Yeah, I didn't count that one. I didn't count that one. So I guess WrestleMania 10, when he was El Matador, was his final win. So, but then in terms of another wrestler for the unsung hero, I had Randy Orton. Again, another guy I don't like to give a lot of credit to, but he's appeared at 14 WrestleManias. It's quite a big deal. He's usually in a very good match on the card.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up Randy because I didn't think he was going to make the list, but Randy's another one of those guys that usually brings it for WrestleMania. And that match with The Undertaker was one of The Undertaker's early, wow, this is actually a really good match, you know?
Yeah.
And Ric Flair, he only wrestled at, I want to say 3 Manias?
4 at the very least.
Yeah, 4 because he did the ladder match.
No, it's
No,
5.
he's got Taker, he's got Michaels, he's got the 2 matches.
So yeah, it's Taker, Michaels, Savage. He's got the Evolution against
match.
Rock and
The
Sock,
Evolution one, yeah.
and he's got the Money in the Bank ladder match. He also has a pre-show match with Carlito against who are they facing? It was him and Carlito against some tag team. Probably Kenny Dykstra and something.
No, Kenny Dykstra's on the outside of the ring wearing a freaking fox on his neck. I don't know who they wrestled, but yeah, weird place to put the greatest of all time.
But they were the only like wrestlers that I had. But I also wanted to extend the performer side of things a little bit more, just to there are some people that appear at so many WrestleManias but don't really get the sort of credit. So Gorilla Monsoon, he's commentating most of the original WrestleManias, and then he's also like his final WrestleMania appearance is the Brawl for All judge, so he gets to watch Bart Gunn get the shit kicked out of him. Oh god, Barbie should be on the celebrity thing as well. I need to...
For sure, Butterbean is the 4th celebrity.
Yeah. Bobby Heenan,
Definitely
managing so many other matches. He actually has a loss at WrestleMania as well. It's a loss to the Red Rooster. In I think I saw on the list it was about 30 odd seconds, something like that. But still has a match at WrestleMania, so that puts him above some of the other ones. Jim Ross. Some of the most iconic WrestleMania calls from Jim Ross. You obviously put Vince McMahon in terms of commentary as well, and realistically, you probably should put Michael Cole in this sort of discussion as well, but it's Michael Cole, so I don't want to.
Well, the man is undefeated at WrestleMania. We're gonna just gloss over the coal mine.
But I think Jim Ross, because of some of the stuff that he was doing as well with some of the calls that he made for the WrestleMania 17 thing, the Triple H Undertaker match and the Hell in a Cell as well. So he was brought back specifically for certain matches down the road. So Gene Okerlund,
right?
A lot of like important interviews and stuff. Howard Finkel has to be in this discussion. Howard Finkel announced at the first 30 WrestleManias in some form or another.
That's insane.
He has 31 appearances at WrestleMania. That's more than
the man. He's the man, though. That's why.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think like if I was being really sentimental, I would say that you have to put Howard Finkel into the WrestleMania one, just because there's nobody who's appeared at more WrestleManias than Howard Finkel. He appeared at 30 consecutive WrestleManias, doing commentary, not the commentary, doing announcing, but I assume when we come down to eventually when we've exhausted everything else, we're doing the greatest announcers of all time for Mount Rushmore, then he'll just be on his own, really. He can take up 3 of the spots.
That's the thing. If we ever do Mount Rushmore of announcers, it's just going to go, all right, Howard Finkel, and then let's figure out the other 3.
And then just 3 people,
Yeah, there's no discussion. We literally wouldn't even have to do the discussion. It would just be like,
Finkel. I'd want to, because Howard Finkel deserves it.
Yeah,
at least to go through all the stuff.
I just want to... go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to list some other too, but if you want to say some other things.
No, I just really quickly, I want to go back, because we were talking about Ric Flair. That dark match was Flair and Carlito against Chavo and Shane Helms. So, yeah, that's a
memorable.
Oh, yeah. So those are the 4 people in the... No. And the final 2 people I wanted to do was a couple of referees. Because we don't talk about referees, don't get a big mention in sort of thing. So Earl Hebner,
Mount Rushmore referees.
Well, Earl Hebner has 19 appearances at WrestleMania, but he's not the referee with the most appearances. It's somebody who goes really under the radar in terms of referees, but is just always there. It's Mike Chioda.
Mike Chioda,
yeah. Mike Chioda.
Chioda's been there for... It's astonishing when you go back and you check how far back Chioda was popping up. Like, you can watch like a 92 event and you'll be like, is that Mike Chioda? And it's like, holy fuck.
Actually, you can go farther, a lot more than 92. Chioda has been there for a while.
I'd say I did the maths, and he has refereed at 25 WrestleManias. So
still, though, he does not have as good of a referee moment as Charles Robinson does at WrestleMania 24. It's one of my favorite WrestleMania moments ever. I loved him sprinting down to the ring like that. That was amazing.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, you're obviously not going to put a referee or anything, but I thought it would just be nice to mention a few of the people that have always been there, have always been around, in and around the WrestleMania side of things, but don't get the sort of credit because they're just like the supporting cast to the main stars. But I think it probably comes down to now the point where we have to just decide who's actually going to be the four.
Well, we got Undertaker, we got Hogan.
Yeah, I think we're pretty.
All three of us are deadlocked on those two, so
Yeah.
we just need 2 more spots. And by my calculations, the ones that are in the discussion are Shawn Michaels, Randy Savage, The Rock, John Cena, Triple H, Steve Austin, and the slight possibility of manipulating it from competitors and throwing in the Vince McMahon thing. But I'm leaning a little bit more towards the idea of let's just forego the McMahon thing.
Yep, roll out Vince. Stick with
Yeah.
competitors.
Okay, so then we got The Rock, Cena, Austin, Triple H, Savage, and Michaels. I would probably nominate out of those options. We got 6 people. We only have 4 spots. I would probably go Michaels and Cena. Actually,
Michaels for sure, but I'm having a hard time choosing between Triple H and The Rock.
Yeah, I'm struggling between one of Austin, The Rock, and then Triple H and Michaels. They're like the 2 ones. I'd say you either put Triple H or Michaels in, and you either put Austin or The Rock in. I rule out Savage is completely ruled out at this point, I think.
okay, yeah. Well, none of us had Savage down, so we have, at the very least, there's 2 possibles for Triple H, 2 possibles for The Rock, 3 possibles for Michaels, only 1 for Cena. So by and only 1 for Austin. So by mathematics, it would seem to me that you would have to have Michaels be one of them, and then the other spot goes to Triple H or The Rock.
Yeah, well, essentially my choice was between Michaels or Triple H. So if we're putting Michaels in, then Triple H is ruled out for me, and I go with The Rock as the other one.
So I'm still torn between Hunter and The Rock.
So that would make me the judgment call, unless you would go with The Rock. Wait, that's what you had, Callum, you picked Rock?
No,
Yeah, I'm going Rock.
Callum went with The Rock, yeah.
You could say Triple H just to make it interesting. And then Tony could say Cena and then just fuck all of us. But you know.
No, I'll roll Cena out in the same regard that Austin was ruled out. So it's Undertaker, Hogan, Michaels, and then either The Rock or Triple H. And I don't have a horse in that fight. No, the horse in that race. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, with that
the horse's ears are bleeding.
So here's the thing. I think Rock is iconic, and I think Rock, has had a lot of big ooh-ah WrestleMania moments, but Hunter is that consistent performer. So I think their positives kind of cancel each other out. So I think you're really gonna have to be the deal breaker here, Tony.
All right, so we're gonna do this by mathematical rules and comparison of quality and quantity. What is the win-loss record of The Rock and the win-loss record of Triple H?
Okay, so the win-loss record, I'll go down with the stats. So Triple H has 22 appearances at WrestleMania, or 22 matches at least. I don't. No, he didn't wrestle multiple times on any show. So 22 appearances, 22 matches, 9 victories, 13 losses. The Rock has 14 appearances at WrestleMania, but only 10 matches, 5 wins, 5 defeats.
Oof.
Do you want to go with like the quality of opponents? Maybe that will get some sort of sway as well. So Triple H's losses are against, well, you can just count some of the quality of people that they faced instead, rather than go by quality of wins and losses. So Triple H and The Rock have obviously fought each other. The Rock has fought Eric Rowan, big deal. He's fought the Sultan.
I kind of rule like in comparison. I take the Triple H loss to Ultimate Warrior is an equivalent of
The
Rock beating Rowan, like where it's just like it doesn't even matter, like that kind of a thing.
So
and I kind of also in my mind sort of rule out Triple H had 3 matches with The Undertaker. The Rock had, I think, 3 matches with Austin, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Or was it 2 matches with Austin?
No, 3 matches, yeah.
Okay, so it's like those. I mean, the 3 matches with Undertaker were really big for what they were. I think The Rock leans a little bit more towards special for that because of the main event with the championship on the line and all that, but they almost kind of wash each other out for those. So then Rock's got Cena twice.
2 with Cena, yeah. Triple H has.
Does Rock have any other big ones like that?
So his other matches are against Shamrock, the Sultan. So no, really for those 2. And then obviously the Fatal 4-Way with Triple H, Big Show, and Mick Foley.
Yeah.
And then the other one's Hogan, obviously. And then the
Hogan.
other one after that is the handicap match.
And then Triple H has Cena.
So,
And he has the HBK, Benoit.
Yeah, he has
Randy,
Lesnar, Randy, Sheamus,
Brian.
Batista.
Daniel Bryan.
He has matches against Owen Hart, Kane, Chris Jericho, obviously.
Jericho, Booker T, Sting.
So right now, Rock's got a better win-loss, I think, overall.
Yeah, he's even.
But since he doesn't have as many performances, Triple H has more quantity and slightly more quality just by sheer nature of like having more matches and everything like that.
I mean, he has twice as many matches, over twice as many matches as The Rock has at WrestleMania.
And if we're talking quality, yeah, Rock doesn't come close.
But I think Rock has better quality of opponents. I think the
Rock was a host.
Yeah, I think The Rock's like his the names that he has. Obviously, he has 3 matches with Austin and 2 matches with Cena, but he also has a match with Hogan and that Fatal 4-Way match as well. And obviously, he's had matches with people like Ric Flair and stuff like that. I think the actual the names surrounding who The Rock has faced is actually bigger than Triple H's ones, even though Triple H has some pretty big ones surrounding him as well.
How many main events in the Rock's got? 1, 2.
He has 3.
4.
4 main events. Oh, actually 5 because both Cena matches were main events.
2 with Cena, 2
Cena,
with
2
Austin,
2
and
with Austin
Fatal
and the Fatal 4-Way. Yeah, so 5.
What about Hogan? Was that
That
the
main
main event?
event. Triple H and Jericho.
That's right.
So Triple H has that main event. So I'm trying to think of Triple H's main event. So Triple H has the Fatal 4-Way, the Jericho match,
The Orton match.
The Triple Threats, the Orton match, the Batista match, the Roman
Cena
Reigns match.
The Roman Reigns match.
No, the Cena match wasn't. Oh
Yes,
yeah,
it
it was.
was.
The singles one. I was thinking of the Triple Threat. So yeah, the singles one. So he has 7 right now. If I'm
So
counting
Triple
correctly.
H. I gotta lean Triple H. I had him lowest underneath Cena and then Austin and stuff, but yeah, crunching the numbers, Triple H is yeah, I think I might have to go Triple H on that one.
So
Still a chance that Mike might be swayed to The Rock, but right now I'd be leaning Triple H.
So what's crazy about that is, if we leave it at that, it's Hogan, and then the 3 guys who cannot get away from each other at WrestleMania, being Shawn, Hunter, and The Undertaker.
Yeah,
I think that's what we're looking at as like the unified one.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm cool with that too. I think that Hogan represents that era that used to be. Undertaker is kind of a little bit of a partially like a transition, a little bit mixed with Shawn Michaels in that. Michaels kind of starts carrying next into the transition with Triple H and everything like that, and then Triple H is the last out of the group of people that has done so much by now that he is past that point. But in a couple of years, I mean, Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair, they're going to make a real good run for that.
Yeah, but that's that'll definitely be in the long-term future. And who knows how many matches Triple H still has left, because he's the only one that can really add to his tally at this point. Unless Michaels decides to come back unless they decide to host WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, then Michaels probably won't come back. So, but
Oddly enough, I would say that Michaels is the one that's more in danger to get taken out by Flair.
Yeah, I'd say that because Triple H can add to it, he'll obviously add to it this year, so he'll be on 23 matches then, which he starts to close it in on Undertaker for just most matches in general at this point, because if Taker never comes back, then Triple H can only add to his one. And you'll know that Triple H knows that obviously he can't get the win record, so he'll want to have more appearances than the Undertaker at WrestleMania. Always have that over him.
Well, you know what he'll do? They'll do another tournament like they did with Savage, where he won 4 times and stuff. And Triple H will do that, but each match is for the championship, so he also beats Flair's record too.
Oh no, and he'll make sure that he wins 22 matches, so he beats Undertaker's streak of victories in a row.
Yeah, he has a gauntlet match, and they all count as separate matches.
Yeah,
where he just like eliminates people through over the top rope battle royal stuff. He wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and they count it as 30 wins.
He has to
they have to eat the pedigree.
Yeah.
Like everybody on the roster has to eat the pedigree.
That's the whole pre-show. It's just him pedigreeing one by one. He just kicks, pedigree, pin, kick, pedigree, pin, kick, pedigree, pin.
And you know what? He'll get over.
And then you know what? And then somebody gets a quick roll up at the end, and then he goes, "See, I put him over." It's like, well, that's our Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania, at least as far as before WrestleMania this year goes.
Do we not want
The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H.
Do you want to add our separate ones in just to go for it? Because I assume our separate ones might be slightly different.
Yeah, why not? Go for it.
Oh, well, my separate one would be Hogan, Undertaker. I'd go Rock and Triple H.
Mine says Hogan, Taker, Rock, and Michaels.
And I would have gone with Cena until I realized all the Triple H stuff. So my 4 would be the 4 that we have. I'm cool with it. I like it.
That's good.
Minus the fact that we need to throw in a little dust there for Vince McMahon, but that's just because
I want Howard Finkel to be on the side as well. He deserves it.
The Mount Rushmore of people that aren't competitors at WrestleMania are Howard Finkel.
You can't say
Vince
too many
McMahon.
nice things about this person, but shout out to Kevin Dunn for being like at the creative, or at least the producer head of 35 of these. That's insane.
He doesn't need it.
A shout out to Raven as well for crashing that golf car.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the WrestleMania 17 one for the 2001, so I'm looking forward to that part.
Also, while we're just shouting out random WrestleMania memories, Hardcore Holly berating Michael Cole at WrestleMania 2000.
Oh, it's getting into WrestleMania spirit now. I'm more excited for WrestleMania 35 after this discussion.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for that discussion, everybody. Make sure that you drop your comments below. Tell us what you think about our list. Tell us if you think that, our list is not the right one that you would be going with. What would you be going with instead? And tell us some other ideas what you'd like to see from Mount Rushmore. We got a list of about 20 ideas that we might be doing in the future. And this wasn't actually one of the ones that I had on my list. So that goes to show that Mount Rushmore doesn't necessarily need to be the individual performers and stuff. We could do things like the Mount Rushmore of moments, or the Mount Rushmore of any kind of things that go along with that. So lots of possibilities for the future of Mount Rushmore, and I don't know when we're going to get a chance to do one of them again, but sometime in the next couple of months or so, hopefully. So if you want to be aware of when our next thing is, it's either going to be Wrestling with the Past, or retrospective of the Hall of Fame, or it's going to be the mailbag. So send in the mailbag questions that you have, just in case. And, if not, then we'll just do them the next week after that. But the best way to be aware of when that gets posted up on the YouTube channel is to subscribe to the YouTube channel itself. Ring the little bell for the notifications. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Yeah, my nose is so stuffy now. What else we got for the plugs? We got the Patreon that you guys should be checking out. We've got the TeePublic and the Redbubble. There is plenty of other stuff happening on smarkoutmoment.com, so check that out and, click on all the articles and stuff. Go to fanboysanonymous.com to check out everything happening there, and obviously subscribe on the YouTube channel and do all the other kind of stuff that's literally like copy and paste of what Smark Out Moment is, TeePublic, Redbubble, Patreon, etc., etc. And I got wrestling news, I've got Bleacher Report, got plenty of shit going on. Not enough time for it. How about you guys? Plugs? Go for it, whatever.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. You can check out all the great weeklies at smarkoutmoment.com and check out all of the cool things we're doing with 2001 Wrestling Odyssey. But for that, I'll turn it over to Callum Wiggins.
Oh, thank you. Well, first you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and then, as Rob says, 2001 Wrestling Odyssey. The March one will be coming up sometime. I'm hoping to record it sometime either this week or early next week, just to get it out early. So that'll be the March edition. Then we've got one along the line for a special just based around WrestleMania 17, because it's too big a deal to contain into just it's a standard episode. It needs its own standalone feature, and we'll hopefully be able to get Tony on board for that one as well. And then after that will just be the April and all the other months going down the line. And also check out the power rankings and all the other weekly stuff on Smark Out Moment. And that's it for me.
And two more things that I had completely forgotten about. We've got the Smark Madness tournament going on right now, so go ahead and vote on the best foreign object of all time. And the other thing to be aware of is the contest that we have going on from fun.com, which is that you can win either a Triple H Skull King Funko Pop or a Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 12 Funko Pop. So if you have not submitted at least one entry, you have plenty of entries that you could do. I think it's something along the lines of like, well, technically speaking, you could buy as many t-shirts and stuff as you want. Those are worth 10 points a piece. But you can do tons and tons and tons of entries. So go ahead and do that if you want to win that. And that's all that I got going on. So thank you for listening to this, everybody. Thank you for all your support. Give us a like, give us a share, whatever the case may be. And we will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.